Mind, Body, Aloha Wellness.
You got to record it.
Oh, thank you. Jamie and I are the co-founders of Mind, Body, Aloha Wellness. So some of you know us through those realms, and some of you are Maka'ala's students. And I would say that
All of us are
Maka'ala's students.
If you're not, you will be.
If you are not, you now are. And
right.
We first met Maka'ala. Gosh, Maka'ala, I was trying to think. I usually measure it off of how old our youngest son is. So he's now 16. And so I want to say we have been connected for probably about 13 or 14 years.
At least that.
At least.
And my first face-to-face experience with him, let me just say that, because I feel like I've known him for lifetimes, but my first face-to-face experience with him was at a Ho'oponopono and fasting retreat and in Maui. And it was at a really powerful time where I had done a lot of work kind of thematically, cognitively around some trauma I experienced while serving in the military. And I knew that the final piece for me was much deeper. There was a spiritual healing that needed to happen. And it did. And it was really powerful. And though I had encountered the practice of Ho'oponopono from different lineages, from many different teachers, when I met Maka'ala, that's when it really shifted for me. And I think that's when I began to really embody the practice. And it is something that I would say is a part of my daily life. Once you understand kind of the concepts, it really becomes this practice. It almost sounds too small to say a practice, but it's a way of life. It's something you embody. And so I'm really excited to talk with Maka'ala. It's always a great honor. And we've got some questions for him. If you're just coming on, you can ask questions in the chat. We'll try. Can't promise we'll get to all the questions because we said we're going to let Maka'ala kind of just go with the flow and what wisdom comes from him. But I'll let Jamie share a little bit of how you got connected with him, and I'll.
So again, feel free to put any questions. If Maka'ala talks about as a concept or something, you have anything, put it in the chat. We'll do our best to get to them. If we can't get to them during this call, we will get you an answer after. Now, I want to share how Maka'ala was Susan's teacher. Susan mentioned that she had met him, and Maka'ala, for those of you that don't know, is at 2 tours to Vietnam. So I had 4 tours to Afghanistan. So Maka'ala and I connected at that level of experience. And what Maka'ala has done for me is, bottom line is, he helped me get my soul back. So that's probably the best gift that any human being in this existence can give to another human being. So Maka'ala's teachings helped me go back to Afghanistan in 2013 and pull my soul back together. It made me whole once again. Mm-hmm. So that's the type of relationship I have with this teacher, and gratefulness that I have for him and his teachings. And so he's helped us with other veterans as well. And his story is unbelievable. It's his to tell, and his teachings are just out of this world, I guess is the saying. So with that,
well, we should probably, for those of you who don't know Maka'ala or you didn't read the bio, let me also just say he is a master teacher of Lomi Lomi, of course, Ho'oponopono, fasting. He will probably share a little bit of his story from that background. From a Western perspective, he is a chiropractor. So he is actually Dr. Maka'ala Yates. But I think most importantly, he is a kumu to many of us and many of you who are watching this. So again, Kumu, we are so grateful. And I should say, he's also family. He's been a very special part of our family. So thank you, Maka'ala, for continuing to love on us and love on our 2 boys and just hanaiing us, really.
Yeah, I was going to just say that you guys are family for me. It's beyond, it's beyond all the experiences we've had in the past. We're connected for forever, lifetimes after this as well. Yeah, it was it's been too long. We need to do this more often. And yeah, I mean, I get a lot of questions around the world, my travels. Pre-COVID, I was traveling 50,000 miles a year, sharing the insights of the Hawaiian culture from my perspective, because I have a different perspective than many other, let's just say, sharers of the culture. So, I was lucky that I was in a period where the magical stuff was still happening in Hawaii. And not today. I don't see a lot of magic anymore. Sometimes I see here and there. I'm talking about the magic of healing potentials, and I don't know, like changing weather patterns, stuff like that. Healing broken bones. There's a lot of stuff that took place during my teacher's days. And, I haven't yet learned how to transport my body places, but maybe I'm working on that soon. If any of you learn how to do that, teach me how so I can do that myself. Yeah, the thing about this subject matter, because I get this all the time, if Auntie Margaret was she was the most influential teacher that I've had in my learning. And Auntie Margaret, her original name was Kalihua Makanui Lulu'u on the Pali. And there's a whole meaning behind that. So when she was young, she was called Kalihua. And her teacher was Aha'ula Keali'i. Now, Aha'ula Keali'i happened to be one of the major kahuna for the ali'is in the early 1800s, I think late 1800s. And then you had Kamakanui Ahailono, who was the original teacher, all the way back to Ka'u. So I know your listeners out there might be, these names may not mean anything to you, but just the importance of the lineage, how this information has come through. So Kamakanui Ahailono was from Ka'u, and from him, the knowledge came from the star people. That's how it all started. This is what's passed down all the way down to me through Auntie Margaret. So there's a connection beyond this world. And, when I say this to people, they're like, what the heck are you talking about? Well, Auntie Ire Kanakaole, who's like a famous kumuhula from Hilo, the Merrimonic Festival in Hilo, the facility that is performed in is named after her. And I was one of her students, language and culture. And she told us that they were up in the mountains, and I won't mention the district, but they were up in the mountains came across this cave way up in the mountains and saw this implement that was not of this world. So just to kind of feed that to you in a more, to bring things into perspective into who these people were. And I feel the Polynesian Triangle was a significant portal, because when you see, they were healing broken bones to chant on a daily basis. It wasn't like a uncommon thing. They were doing a lot of things, levitating boulders and things like that. Well, when you look at the Polynesian Triangle, you have Hawaii on the top, the pole, and then you have Aotearoa, and you have Rapa Nui. So they make a triangle, and you can look at a map and draw the lines to triangulate dead middle. There is a little atoll. Atoll's called not Mataiva or not Mataiva. I forget the name of the island, but it's an atoll. About 3,000 people live there. Every single ali'i up to Kamehameha III was coronated on this island. Not in Hawaii, not in Aotearoa, not in Rapa Nui, not in Tahiti, but on this little atoll. And my question is, why? Well, when you triangulate these points, it is in the dead exact center of these three major islands that form the Polynesian Triangle. So these people were very, very advanced people. And what I bring to the forefront is the connection to all of this. So when I speak about anything about a culture, is based on these connections. Just thought I'd take
Wow.
you on a little trip.
Take that in for starters.
Yeah.
That in. So I guess suffice to say that when we talk about Ho'oponopono, and I always say it's more than what if you were to Google it, you're not going to get the true essence of it. It is so far beyond that. And I think this gives you a good introduction into that. So for those who maybe have no understanding or connection, or this is totally a new concept, what would you say Ho'oponopono is to someone who's first encountering this for the first time?
Well, so here's the thing. Before we can even embark on that journey, we have to set the tone in terms of the changes of consciousness of the Hawaiian people that happened through all the ages. Because the interpretation of concepts like Ho'oponopono had been changed based on the recent conquerors, intruders, conquerors. So what I have done to explain this to people is that I have divided up the consciousness shift based on a time period. So I've divided up the periods of the existence of the Hawaiians in the Hawaiian Islands. So there is this pre-warrior period, warrior period, or the ali'i period, the missionary period, and then the illegal occupation period. So these are major periods that has affected the consciousness of the Hawaiian people. So the interpretation of concept has changed throughout these periods. And so today, what you're hearing a lot of the Ho'oponopono is based on the most recent period, which is the illegal occupation period. So that's when the America came in and they made their own laws and suppressed the kahunas. The kahunas were these masters, and and fined them. If you were practicing sorcery, they call it sorcery. They fined them $1,000 and jail 1 year. I mean, this really happened, right? So they had to shut down the knowledge base of the original people, and so they've changed. And so when I speak about anything culturally, it is based on the the original people, how they interpreted things. So, and then I'll get into the Ho'oponopono. Let me explain. Let me give you a better example of what I'm speaking about. In '76, I was on a Hokulea, which is a canoe that went from Hawaii to Tahiti. National Geographic filmed the whole thing. And I was on a Tahiti to Hawaii leg. And recently, there was a Merrimonic Festival in Hilo to honor all the original crew members, the ones who are still alive. And we did these question and answer gathering in different places in Hilo. And one of the places was in Kamehameha School. It's all Hawaiian school. And it went on for a while, and this one young woman, it must have been a senior because they had the auditorium from kindergarten all the way back to the seniors. And she was in the back row. She asked this question: how does, through oevigenesis, now this is the millennials using these terms, and I had to understand what she was saying. Oevigenesis, for me to help me to connect with our solar system and the stars. And the speakers who were speaking the most from the crew members didn't understand the question. And finally, I took over the conversation, and I said, this question is one of identity. She was asking, she needed to find out her own identity. And so I'm not going to tell you the whole story what took place, but I explained to them, and I'm in a Hawaiian language school, all Hawaiian school, and the Hawaiian language is part of the school there. And I said, in order to understand the words that was originally voiced, you need to understand the people who voiced those things. So, like a perfect example is kulia ikanu'u. Kulia ikanu'u is a phrase that a lot of Hawaiian organization uses, And in their interpretation is striving for excellence. Well, it doesn't match for me, and it doesn't match the original people, because striving was never a part of striving. Means you're suffering, you're struggling, and excellence, you'll never be satisfied. You'll never reach the end point because you're always looking for excellence. And that's not the original people intention in that phrase. Kulia ikunu'u, for me, it means many things, but for me, it means being on the path of inquiry. So having a mindset of inquiry, you now have no judgment on the speaker. And so now you're open to learning, open to seeing that you never saw before. You see, so now when we go into Ho'oponopono, it's the same idea that I have to bring to the forefront, because you have a lot of different people interpreting it in so many different ways. And the word pono itself is a word, and I have not found, and I'm searching in other languages, the equivalent, and I have not found one yet. In Polynesia, pono is unique. And, I think I came up with 20-something interpretations of that one word, right? And ho'o, the word ho'o is to bring action, is to, when we speak as in action. You see, and it's not like a superficial thing. So I would never say, hey, Jamie, how you doing? And then walk away. And when I say, peheko piko, or, the old days, peheko piko, it's a sit down. If I ask, hey, Jamie, how you doing? That means I'm going to sit down and have a conversation with you, because I want to know, I genuinely want to know how you're doing. And today in the English world, it's different. It's like a formality, or being polite, or whatever. But the Hawaiian language is deeper than that. If we say something, ho'o means I'm taking action of doing something. Ho'opono. And when you see the word pono, when you see any Hawaiian word repeated twice, it's the emphasis of that one word. So this is how we're able to speak 13 letters in our alphabet, and we can speak way down the rabbit hole. So ho'oponopono is the action of really bringing it to balance, seriously bringing it to balance, something that we're talking about, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So the thing that's missing in the whole idea of understanding this concept is that it was based on the Ahapua'a system of a community. So the community, lived by, it had agreements that they all were able to interact with. So every thought, every action had an impact on everyone in the village. And so the Ahapua'a system is based on dividing the island like a piece of pie. It goes from the mountain down to the ocean, and every village had responsibility within that district. And within the district, you have micro districts that everyone was responsible for that particular area. I mean, it goes on and on, but everyone committed to this, to these basic ideas. And Ho'oponopono is about understanding of letting go. So if something had happened, there was a sit down that was resolved, which we call kala. The word kalamai in English now is translated as I'm sorry, excuse me. But kala does not mean that. Kala means it's kala by itself is about it's about resolution, bringing a resolution to something. So anyway, I'm going on about this and all that, but the thing about Ho'oponopono is that there are different layers of comprehension. And when there was some serious conflict, you went to the kahuna or to the elder, the kupuna, to have a sit down with it's not just conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is the topmost layer of what Ho'oponopono is all about. So the most complex layer of Ho'oponopono is helping the soul cross over. And and there are different different things. So the basic one is so I've written down some of the things. it's the basic. I mean, today everybody talks about conflict resolution and about these intellectual concepts. I mean, they go on and on and on in English, or in other cultures, or Italian. I've heard it in Italian, intellectualizing a concept that has nothing to do with Hawaiian, but it's just been intellectualized on a psychological, intellectual basis, let's just say. Whereas in the Hawaiian, they lived it. So this is why Renee and I created the living Pono programs, because I had to separate the two. So one was to be able to let go. At some point in time, you have to let go, and you have to move on. And then now the second part is, well, then you create a new story, a new chapter of who you are. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going on. What's some of the questions that might be passing
So
through?
here's a question based on what you just said that I think came from somebody, and I appreciate you sharing. Like, those of us who understand or have an understanding of what the Ahua'a system is and how close we live, and we know that in many ways we're connected. I mean, we've got somebody from Austria here and all over the world, all over the US. So in some ways we're closer, but in other ways, like with our families and with that kind of reciprocating relationship, I think we're moving more towards that, but there's a lot of challenges. So here is an example. Here's a question that somebody posed that may relate. I love my family of origin, but I am very different from them. Over the last few years, especially, our differences have become more pronounced socially, politically, and whatnot. I still want to have a relationship with them, but we have a lot of difficulty getting past our differences with one another. So much so that it makes it difficult to be with them sometimes. The relationship can feel very toxic from my point of view. How can I reconcile with them if I'm the only one who wants to do so?
Yeah, so here's the thing. You as I see it, you have two options with Ho'oponopono. You either change the environment you're in or get out of it. That's the two options. And that's the basic options. I mean, obviously there's some some gray lines in between there, but you have two options. So how do you change the environment? Well, if you can't change other people's mindset, then you move on. And that's hard to digest, because it's your family. But I can tell you, my family's 8 of us, and I am just different than everybody else. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? But so the thing is, I've seen this more post-COVID. I've seen a lot of this, and asking me a question about how to deal with this. And honestly speaking, is our immediate friends and family will change, because our mindsets will have changed. Our consciousness, awareness have changed. And that's just a part of evolution. The thing is, you can always share your love, but you don't have to be part of that community, I suppose. That differences of mindset, and the thing is, if you still want to encounter with them, fine, but you got to stop them from bringing you to the point of separation. So, hey, your idea is your idea, my idea, but can we just be a family, have a dinner together, and just have, bring up good memories? See, but I tell you right now, you have two choices: change the environment, or you have to get out of it. How? Well, that's a question we have to. That's a $64 million question. We have to sit down and have a discussion about. It's case by case.
I found in my personal journey that I think of Ho'oponopono sometimes as like this tree. Say you, I mean, not that I'm a fan of cutting down trees, but say you're trying to remove a non-native tree, an invasive tree. If that tree has been growing for decades or hundreds of years, it's no short process, right? Versus a little, like maybe the little invasive, tree that just popped up in the forest. Maybe that's that can be removed easily. But if it's been growing, just like these kind of conflicts, this pilikia, this whatever is going on in the family, if it's been growing for generations, it's a process. It is something that you work on as yourself over and over and over and over again. I mean, that's been my experience. And sometimes your family will do that process with you as well, or the environment starts to change as you come into alignment, be, arpono in your own life. That's been my experience.
Yeah, but I mean, it's everybody has unique situations. And that's what Ho'oponopono is about. I mean, so the concept of Ho'oponopono is very simple. It's like navigation. Polynesian navigation is very simple. You have a canoe going from A to B, south to north, and the stars rise and set, east to west, right? And you can maintain your course by just watching the stars, the patterns. And now it gets more difficult when you start changing the angle. You're going southwest now, or whatever, northeast or something like that. And then now the angle of the stars is different. So that changes, the relationship changes, the behavior pattern changes. And then it gets really complex because you have to memorize over 206 stars. And some stars are storm stars and blah, 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 and goes on and on. So this is a simple idea that can quickly be complex. But we have, so Ho'oponopono has the same idea, but it gets quickly complex because of the players involved and the trauma involved. And so it's I've worked with women who were abused, and there was like 6 of them when I was in pre-med school, that if they were sitting in our circle today, you would not know that they've gone through these traumatic things. And one of the key things was Ho'oponopono for them. And I kind of go into the details of all of these things, but I'm just saying that at some point in life, you're going to have to let go if you want to move on. If you're going to hang on to it, I have literally seen, and with all my years with Auntie Margaret, people holding on to issues that now has manifested into some illness, including cancers. Because when we have discussions with them, it always leads back to a family situation or something that was said to them when they were young. You see, so at some point, letting go is the most powerful thing we can ever do. It's a mind that sometimes doesn't allow us to do that, our minds. And so it's easier said than done. I'm not saying it's an easy task, but at some point in this lifetime, unless you want to come back and repeat your lessons again, then fine, don't let go. But Mona Simeona, who was one of my teachers, that was a big thing with her. And she would travel around the world doing her work and come up and recognize souls that she has recognized from another lifetime, and knew that either she has harmed them or they have harmed her somehow. And she would walk right up to them and work out some, letting go some of these responsibilities. I'm not kidding you. Shibuya Station in Japan is one of the biggest. It's a train station, but it's the biggest intersection in Japan. 1,000 people crossed at the same time. She recognized this guy from another lifetime, went up to him, walked to the sidewalk to him, and he was talking in Japanese. She didn't understand. She's talking in English to him. He didn't understand. But they both were in tears because Mona had this ability to communicate on a soul level, which we all can do. And in a matter of minutes, that whole life that they encountered was resolved. Color, resolution, it was resolved. And and why she did that? She said, I don't want to come back and repeat my lessons again. I'm tired of this recycling back into this karmic cycle. She didn't want to come back. So she took responsibilities of letting go. And that's what we need to understand, how powerful that can be once you start to realize it.
That gave me chicken skin just thinking about that.
That's so powerful. And as we listen and we start to wonder, like, okay, so what is it? I hear responsibility. I hear taking responsibility. And then in our today's culture, Western culture, we go to the therapist and we have these therapies and we kind of get down into it and we peel off these layers and these layers and these layers. And it seems like be a perpetual kind of healing process that we think that we're going through. What would you say to that? And then what would you recommend people to do as they begin this journey of figuring out how to let go and how to kind of go through those processes?
Yeah, so see, in Ho'oponopono, so the concept of peeling the leaf of the onion is very westernized. And the Ho'oponopono is about getting rid of the onion. And that's it is, I mean, I was doing this workshop on Ho'oponopono. His counselor for battered women's group was in his class. And he had a hard time accepting that. And he kept going on every day. He would interrupt our conversation, our discussion that we were having. And he said, wait a minute, what about this? And what about that? You know, all the psychological concepts that he was throwing at me, because getting rid of the onion was not something he was really ready to understand. And so finally, the last day, he finally says, he interrupted again, says, Maka'ala, I get it now. The reason why it's hard for me to grasp and this idea of getting rid of the onion is because I paid a lot of money to get my degree. And that was his words. Yeah. And, and that was what he was stuck with. He paid a lot of money to get his degree, his authority. And all of a sudden I come along and says, well, it's easier than that. Just get rid of the onion. Of course, getting rid of the onion now is another story, because you have to first of all understand how to identify where the onion is. Right. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but once you identify where the onion is and how it's connected to all the players involved in this event, right, then you start disconnecting these electromagnetic connections to these events or the people that's involved in these events. And, and then, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it's not writing on a piece of paper, this letting go idea. You have to physically do something about it. So what I've done is I figured out how to do a storyboard. So so in my Ho'oponopono therapies that I did, not only chiropractic and Lomi, I was doing Ho'oponopono sessions as well. And I'm not going to get into many of these case studies, but there's a lot of thousands and thousands of case studies. And, I created a storyboard, and maybe people can do their own storyboard. The title of the storyboard has to be up there. So like a book, the title changes as your story goes along. So the title is important, because what is the issue at hand? Okay, relationships. Family, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, relationship would be like the scenario you posted. My family, not, different separation, whatever. It could be a trauma I've experienced, something like of that sort. So once you figure out that title, then you create your storyboard and all the players involved, and then you figure out where the onion is, and you start dismantling that onion. I mean, dismantling the connection to the onion, and then and I'm just very briefly, verbalizing this, but it's a lot more than what I'm saying. Then you finally end up with a ceremony of some sort. So a ceremony for me is like a ho'okupu. So I create a ho'okupu with tea leaves and put herbs inside and things like that. And, that ceremony is about letting go and not being attached to the outcome. So ceremony is important in Ho'oponopono when you let go. Here is a danger. When you come to the point of letting go and you decide to reconnect to that event, very dangerous, because now the hooks go deeper, the barbs get sharper, and the barbs get more barbs. And now it's hard to let go, hard to let go, hard to let go. The longer you hang on to something, the harder it is to let go.
That's the truth.
Well, Maka'ala, you talk about the dangers of going back to it. So you let go, you think you've let go, a week goes by, a month go by, then you see the person again, or you're in contact again, and you get right back into it. How difficult that is for a lot of us to stay away. And that's a huge risk to letting go. What happens if are there any other risks? Like if I chuck this onion, this thing I'm dealing with, and are there any other risks or something that I should do in my life to kind of fill that space? Because I get somewhat addicted to that type of conflict or that type of struggle in my life. Is there anything that I can do?
Yeah. So the thing about once you understand about letting go is memories come back and play a role. So sometimes you get a flashback. Sometimes you see somebody or you have a phone call and it's a flashback to a particular event. So the idea is not to relive those events, but if there's threads still connected because you have some charge to it, then you have to continually do that sequence of letting go, whatever the sequence is. And for me, I have a sequence of things, but it's just sequence. And the thing is, you do create a void once you let go. So think of it this way, and Morna was very clear to me about this, that you have a human body, and you have a energy field within an energy field within an energy field around your body. So like an eggshell with an eggshell with an eggshell with an eggshell around the body, and it rotates like that, like a universe, like planets going around the sun around us. So even Nassim Harem, who is a physicist from Kauai, talks about black hole existing within ourselves. And Hawaiians understood this. What was outside is still inside. And Morna was very big about that. And that's why meditation was big for her. So once you understand inside, you can start to understand how the connection is to all things outside. And so you create this void, and there's ways of, so now what your responsibility is, your kuleana is to change the blueprint of that void. So when you clear an energy field, you still have the signature of that event. And so you fill the void, onion coming back. Yeah. So you change the farming metaphor. I don't know how to do that. So that idea is to change the signature by changing the blueprint of that energy field, that void that's there. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. You bring joy into your life, the feeling of joy. What is it that that sounds good, Eliza. So you bring joy into your life. What is it that brings joy into your life? For example, I love being around babies. Oh my gosh, it's such a wonderful feeling. And it's not about take, it's about feeling. Playing the ukulele. Playing the ukulele brings joy to me, right? Or you complete the sentence. I have whatever. I am love. I am happy, healthy, beautiful, whatever it is, to change that signature. I have the most ideal person that I'm sharing my life with in relationship situations. I mean, can be all kinds of things. I have a strong, healthy, functioning, youthful body, mind, and spirit. These are the things that you say over and over again until you become it. Something about you getting rid of the onion. I didn't see all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some great comments in the chat.
Yeah, I don't have that with me, so.
Wondering about how getting rid. So Donna asked, I'm wondering about how I'm getting rid of the onion by creating boundaries, learning my lessons in these situations too. So
yeah, so no, getting rid of the onion is not boundaries, because
right.
Boundaries is you're putting parameters now. You have limitations into what you can do. We as human beings are boundless because we are connected to the entire universal system. It's about letting go. And the most difficult thing, I think, is people trying to find out, well, where is my onion? What is my onion? That's the hard part.
That is the hard part. By the way,
Well-
all of you who are just hearing this for the first time, you're never going to look at the onions, the rotten onions that sit in the bottom of your kitchen. Every time we get a rotten onion, it's like, just throw it all out. It's a metaphor.
But also, I don't want to get beyond this, because what Maka'ala just shared is very huge. And it's something that needs to, I think that we can probably continue to explore. I'm not going to say peel the onion back, but we can continue to explore this concept, where I think what we hear a lot is create these boundaries so I can feel safe and I can feel secure. And I got to create these boundaries in this with this relationship, and I got to limit it here and I got to limit it there so I can be more at peace with this relationship and that relationship and how I interact. But when Maka'ala, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is like the fact that we're energy beings and we're boundless. The more that we restrict ourselves, we're really restricting our growth and our ability to mature, or maybe even
Expand.
learn the lesson that we're supposed to learn. Right?
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Or do you have anything else to say?
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that?
no. I mean, so the thing about having boundaries is it's a defense mechanism. Your defense, right? Boundaries, your border, your defense, setting your defense up, right? And which is based on fear. And so what's the opposite of fear? Is love. So how do we embody love? This is why I say I am love and I am loved. And I remind myself each and every day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's based on fear, the boundaries.
I
Yep.
remember you telling me, Maka'ala, when I was going through a healing journey, that when when there's no longer the energy signature that existed before, when all that you can really love on that soul level, you've really let go. And for me, I got to get to a neutral place with this person. That was an improvement from how I felt, but now it's like seeing people on this soul level. You can love the soul that they are. Is that kind of how?
Yeah, and you moved on. Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember I was invited to New York City for Jeremy Tarchka and Bantam Books. They wanted to publish books for me, which I eventually turned them down. But they asked me, it's two different publishing companies, two meetings, different days, asked me how a guy like me is handling the energies in New York City, because I was walking the streets. And I told them that because I come in with love that's so powerful that it just radiates from me. Not the negative energies come into me, but the love just pours out. And it takes practice. Having faith takes practice. For me, meditation is part of it. Fasting is another part of it. Energy signature. Well, when you have an experience, it leads back when you have an experience, a traumatic experience, and you let that go through a sequence of things, events, which we're not going to go into right now. When you let that go, if you don't do anything about that void, that signature will look for because like attracts like, and that signature is going to look for the same experience over again. This is how we repeat the same lessons over and over again, the ones we don't want, because we haven't changed that void. We haven't changed the blueprint of that void. Embody it in a different one, not the same signature that was there. And we can transmute energies. As human beings, we cannot eliminate, one of the rules in the universe that we live in, we can't get rid of energy. We can create energies. We can reuse energies. You see, the Hawaiian. So when I was in high school, in science class, they had this crank system with all the planets. The sun is in the middle, and all the planets going around, and the moon going around the Earth. And this is how we were taught. The sun is in the middle, and everything revolves around it. And my kupunas told me, no, Maka'ala, the sun is moving. Now, this is like the 60s, 50s, 60s, 60s. In fact, one of the elders, when I went to chiropractic school, one of the elders told me, what you're learning in chiropractic school is children's science from what your ancestors really knew. So the other thing they told me in high school was that you have all these planets, solar system, stars, and in between you have empty space. And then my kupuna says, no, it's Ike. And Nassim Harem is now explaining that the space that we think is empty is content. There's structure there. And the Hawaiians called it Ike, the knowledge. And we can tap into the Ike.
Yes. So there was a question back in the chat that I don't want to let go of, because I think it was a simple question, but powerful and profound as we kind of look at this. It was, I think it was Monica who asked, how, if we don't know the person that's involved in an event, we don't know all the people in an event that maybe, you know, was very painful for us or triggering for us.
Yeah.
How can we do that? And I would also add, because I don't know your specific situation, but you know, I think there's a lot in the world that can be very troubling. And so I would love for you to talk about how this becomes a practice that you not just do in your own little world, but it is something that expands to when we are doing the practice, we are coming into alignment, that the magnitude of that is just boundless.
It's beyond us.
It's beyond us.
Yeah. Tell me the original question. What was the original question?
So the original question is, what if I don't know everyone?
Oh, yeah. I got it. Yeah.
In the event. So I say that the reason why I mentioned like beyond us, because I don't know if she's referring to like maybe there was an incident, she doesn't know all the people, or if she's speaking more on a global level of being kind of feeling the disharmony, you know, the toxicity of things that may be happening in the world that cause us to.
I mean, there are situations that I've dealt with where abuse took place when they were young, and the family member that abused them died already. How do you let go of that, for example? Now, I'm not sure if that's the same situation, but this is a difficult thing to understand, you know, and to be able to do something about that. And the answer, of course, is yes, you can let go. They don't have to be there physically present because it's all about you. It really comes down to you. The more you know who you are, the less you are slighted by anybody else, you know, referring something to you. Right. So it all comes down to that. Me as an individual, how do I react? How do I let go? How do I behave? How do I, you know, whatever it is. And but there are ways of letting go, and that'll have to happen in this lifetime. You know, I remember I was doing a research in chiropractic school on ALS, which is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It's a Lou Gehrig's disease. And I came across an AMA journal. In the journal, it talked about this chemo and the kahuna was the title of it. One page in the AMA journal. And I thought, wow, what the heck? And I read the whole thing, and Auntie Margaret's name was in there. Right. So Auntie Margaret, who was one of my teachers for 16 years. So I in the article, you know, I know I've said this a number of times, but for the listeners out there who haven't heard this story, the essential story was a medical doctor, a dermatologist. So this Hawaiian man had rash in his whole body, and the wife was doing most of the talking. He wasn't doing too much talking. The story was she had a miscarriage. She couldn't have any more children. She came to terms with that, and he wasn't able to come to terms with that. And so he did all his treatments, and nothing really worked. He called his colleague, nothing happened. And out of frustration, his doctor told his Hawaiian man, maybe he could see this Hawaiian kahuna on the Big Island called Auntie Margaret Machado. And then he comes back a couple of weeks later or something like that. I don't remember in the whole article exactly how it went, but I'm paraphrasing it. And his rash is completely gone. And so the doctor said, "Oh, did you see Auntie Margaret, the kahuna?" And he says, "No." And then the article ended, you know, we as doctors, you know, just have to accept certain things as spontaneous, they work on itself and heal itself. I don't know. And so I called Auntie Margaret up, and here's what happened. The guy, this Hawaiian man, called her. So now if this medical doctor asked the Hawaiian man, "Did you talk to her?" he would have said yes. This is the thing about the Hawaiian culture. You got to be specific in your question. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but you got to be specific. And that's just it with Ho'oponopono. The more specific you are in your title of your story, the easier it is for you to let go. The more specific your storyboard becomes with all the details in there, the quicker you're able to let go. So she said to this man, so it turns out the man is from Ni'ihau. Niihau is an island where they speak all Hawaiian. And his wife was the only one who could speak the English. He didn't speak much English. That's why she was doing all the talking. Well, that's information that would have helped me to know, right? So, so Auntie Margaret tells this man, you know Ho'oponopono. And his whole demeanor on the phone shifted. Auntie Margaret's telling me this story because I'm in Oregon talking to her on the phone. And he says, yes. And then she said, then you know what to do. So now the average person may not know what to do, but this guy is from the island of Niihau, and they know what to do because they still live the old way in the Ahupua'a system and how it interconnected with everybody there. And he knew that he was causing disharmony in his whole village. And so once he committed to that, yes, I know it, and you know what to do, he says, yes. Okay, let's do a prayer. So he did a pule on the phone. And I say that the conversation took place not more than 15 minutes. Now, had this medical doctor know that he had talked to Auntie Margaret, perhaps the title of that story, that article, would have been Kimu and Ho'oponopono. Because he knew what to do. He knew that he needed to let go if he was going to bring harmony back into his life and everyone around him. If you knew how much damage you're doing to people around you by harboring your broken record story, saying the same thing over and over again, not wanting to let go, but you want to tell everybody your problems, the same problem over and over again. I call it the broken record story. If you really knew how much disharmony you're doing to others around you, would you still do that? Well, if you do, then it's your life. It's your choice. If you want to bring harmony in your life, it's time to let go. Just saying.
Just saying.
Just
Please don't talk about it.
Jamie and I often talk about this a lot and share this with our boys. It's really one of the fundamental aspects to Ho'oponopono is accepting responsibility for. It doesn't mean you have to accept the responsibility for the pain somebody may have caused you or condone what may have happened, say when you were a little, a young person. But you take responsibility for continuing to play that record over and over and over. That's where the responsibility comes in. It's like you're constantly, you might even feel as like maybe the scenario in the scenario when it actually happened, you were the victim, but then you become the victimizer of yourself by continuing to play that record over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, the story was told once, at least, and the village all know about it in the old days. But that was it. You only said it once, and that's all that needed to be done. That was it. You don't have to say the story over and over again.
Yeah. In fact, you probably don't remember this, Maka'ala, or maybe you do, but I remember in my first Ho'oponopono and fasting retreat with you, and we were all sitting in a circle, and I shared not even the whole story, but just a little bit of my story. And afterwards, you looked at me and you said, Pualani, you never have to share that story again.
Exactly.
And you know what, Kumu? I never have. I share it now from the perspective of the wisdom of what I've learned from that, but not the good.
Exactly. There's situations where you'll bring an idea up based on your experiences. But the person who is telling their broken record story over and over again, that's someone who's not wanting to let go. They want to hang on to their so-called considered power, their confused power. No, the true power. I remember seeing one of these stories on I forget on TV a long time ago. We don't have a TV now, but where this couple daughter was killed and abused and killed was a horrendous story, and the judge was going to pass judgment on this particular person, And the parents of the girl wanted to have a few words before they passed judgment. And here's what the parents told this guy: "We forgive you for what you have done," and sat down. And that told me, I knew they understood the power of letting go. They really got it. Yeah.
Hmm. And I think that's where creating a new story, where you're talking about filling the void, right? What is it? Because that whatever story we're holding on to becomes almost a self-identity if you've been holding on to
It
it for
is,
long.
yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
And so
It
that
is.
letting go, when you let go of it, it can almost feel a little bit like, who am I without this story, without this
Exactly.
I'm a
Exactly.
victim? And so I think for us, where it's been so powerful is like you get to recreate yourself and fill that void with something something joyous, something that is your new self, is something very creative. I find it helps when it's very creative, maybe start with some kind of creative activity. So okay, we have another good question, and we're kind of talking about it, but I want to language it. I want to language it because this was how the question came in. Because we know that Ho'oponopono is foundational in all Hawaiian healing practices. If you learn La'au plant medicine, Lomi Lomi, it always, or traditionally, Ho'oponopono, you would also learn Ho'oponopono. And so this person, I think, is a good example of how this could be foundational to health and healing. So the person says, I have been struggling with a chronic health condition for many years. I have tried lots of things from both Western and Eastern medicine. I have made massive changes in my life and my diet. I've even done fasting. And I generally have a spiritual life and lifestyle that is geared around healing. Do you think Ho'oponopono can help me to have a breakthrough in my healing, which I have not yet had?
And the answer has to be more than one word.
Yeah.
The answer has to be more than one word. Please.
Yeah, more than yes. Yeah, more than yes. Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, I've seen this a lot where I remember there was a period when there was a lot of a condition the medical doctors were calling it fibromyalgia. I think they might still be using that term. Fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue was one of the things that's common in the 90s and stuff like that, and because they just didn't know what it was. And I find that a lot of this, every single case that I had in my clinic had some kind of trauma that happened to them when they were young. And of course the chronic fatigue thing was helped through fasting, cleansing, and stuff like that. And so I would have to track again. Keep me on focus. What else? What am I answering?
If you're struggling with a chronic health condition.
Oh, chronic health. That's right. Yeah. 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 So the thing is, there are a lot of, I mean, I don't know her case specifically, and I would have to see it individually. And I don't have a clinic anymore. I don't do that anymore. However, there are a lot of things that I did to help these people with these health conditions, and fasting was a key component. And because it kicks in their immune system, it clears a mind more. You see a lot of this in psychological issues. I'm not saying this person has psychological issues, but you see changes just from prolonged fasting. In my case, 3 days is plenty enough on a more regular basis. I do at least 4 3-day fasts a year. And so, that's a start, because the physical component that needs to be dealt with, the organs. I don't know what the issues are, and maybe and it depends on where the tipping point is. So healing can take place if all the components are there, for the particular situation. And I have seen changes in very serious situations, but I have seen no changes in other cases because the tipping point is just past that point already. So I mean, it's a hard question to answer, but for me, there's hope. So.
No, Maka'ala, thanks for that. And I just have a question about a little bit of our shared experiences at different eras, different time, but kind of shared experiences. And those that may be watching the recording or on the call today, who have those combat veterans out there who are trying to deal with their experiences and the maybe the invisible wounds or the moral injury that they may be experiencing today. So what type of advice would you give them as they turn off this Zoom? Type of advice would you give them beyond what you've already shared, or maybe like what they can do to start their healing process, beyond what you shared, and maybe share a little bit of your what practices you did in Anti-Morna and how they helped you, and maybe a little bit about that background. I really love that story about when you came back from Vietnam, walking around.
Yeah, that first after the first tour, I came back home. They could tell that my soul was starting to fracture, and and so they pulled me on the side. Says, in my days they call him boy. Hey boy, you gotta come here. And so I was fortunate that I had these mentors, but I had them all my life. You see, from a young age, I didn't realize that the whole village was looking after me. And I was wondering why all the women in the village, they're the ones who were always protecting me somehow. I thought I was like, well, I don't know, something was wrong with me. But I learned later that that they really were protecting me. So it was an advantage for me, And so they told me when I go back the second tour that I need to do, things, Ho'oponopono and things like that, and ceremony and all that, which you did too as well in Afghanistan, and then it's an ongoing thing initially. So it's not like a one-time thing going to shut it off. It's an ongoing thing that you have. It takes practice to let go. It takes practice to undo traumatic events, whether you're a combat veteran or a car accident or women who have used. It takes practice. The answer is there, of course. And for me, fasting, meditation, having physical therapy of somebody who knows what they're doing, depending on the situation. If it's more psychological thing, I tell you that one of the best therapy for me is prolonged fasting. I have seen this time and time again. And in iridology, which is the ability to read the eyes, to determine and scan the body, I have seen the changes in the brain area after fast. And you see changes in manic depressive situations and in other common depression situations. I've seen changes just from prolonged fasting of some sort, but it should be supervised if they don't know what they're doing. But to suffer alone, it's not healthy. To have a community of support is important. I just happen to have elders from my community who knew what the heck they was doing. You see, yeah, and I was lucky. And a lot of these veterans, they don't have that. They have the medical system of support, and that's not what I'm talking about, because medication is not the answer for me. And but it takes time to get rid of environmental and other chemicals, let's just say, without naming anything. And it just takes time. I know that from personal experiences, especially being two tours in Vietnam and Thailand too, which we're always exposed to the environment stuff. And it has taken me years and years and years to eliminate these toxicities. However, I have done it and I'm still doing it. It's an ongoing thing for the rest of my life. So it's never going to be a one-time thing. It's going to be an ongoing thing. So.
And I love that message at the end. It's an ongoing thing. It's something we do for the rest of our lives, and it's a practice that I think what it does for me, it gives me patience, right? It gives me patience, and I know that it's not going to be one and done, complete. It's just it's a continual process. It's living. It's life based on our experiences and what we're doing. So I want to, before we get off the call today, I know we still have 30 minutes with you today. Thank you again for taking the time with us today. We're so blessed to have you with us. And but do you have any fasts on the horizon? Do you have anything that you're doing as far as workshops or fasts? And maybe we can get that out to the community.
I am launching at-home fasting program. It's a 3-day fasting program, but the program is longer than 3 days. Because traveling as much as I have done, and especially with doing fasting, traveling to do fasting programs is taxing on me. And so, and I want to reach out to more people. So I've figured out how to do this where people can do it at home, where we have live interaction, during the fast itself. So I am going to be launching something very soon. The 3-day fast, the liver cleansing would be part of it, critical for the liver cleansing, especially with psychological issues and physical debilitations, like this woman who's asking you about these things. The liver is always involved. The digestive system is always involved. And so the colon fast, small and large intestines, the digestive system, the liver, and then there's a rebuilding part of it where Renee has made a nice green formula. It's a very powerful formula she's made. I'm really impressed with it, and I've been using it now for at least a month, and really like what she's come up with. There are some mushroom stuff in there, but there are many other things that are in there, and that's a rebuilding phase. So I've decided to separate the green mixtures from the rebuilding stuff from the colon formula, because I don't want the colon formula to take away some of the nutrients. So fasting first, rebuild second, liver and cleanse, rebuild next, and then they still do the cleanse for another month and a half. And then, of course, we have discussions about lifestyle changes and suggestions of not dietary changes, because that never works. It's lifestyle that has to happen. You just got to be smart about things, and you have to learn. Too bad everybody wants the easy way out. Oh, I'll just follow this system. No, it's not going to work that way, because the system is not based for everybody. So you have to, Anyway, so that will be launched very soon. Maybe, I don't know, after summer, maybe, because a lot of things happening between now and July, September, or October now. But a lot of stuff happening for me this year. So that is one of them. The other one is I'm going to be launching at some point. I don't know when, but I have it all laid out. I want to help develop Ho'oponopono practitioners. And that's going to be involved in a 6-month program, and there's going to be a lot of case studies. That's where you really want to learn stuff. That's the one to get into. And I really go over. I have a lot of lectures and discussions about Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian culture, but mostly a lot of case studies that they have to do, and I have to correlate with them. And then so there's 2 projects that is on the horizon. The third one, of course, is the second book. Nawahini Kahuna, I believe, is going to be the name of it. I'm not sure at this point. It's about the women masters of all Hawaii. It's Auntie Margaret, Morna Simeona, and Auntie Iolani Loahini. So that's going to be it's a fabulous book. It's finished. I'm just going to be re-editing that, and I hope that can be out soon. So
yeah, we're looking forward to seeing all of this
Well, I
rolled
can't
out.
wait for all of that, but I especially can't wait for the book.
Tara will really be available online or in. No, it's online. You mean the fasting program? It'll be online.
Yeah,
Looking forward to it.
And Jamie and I've done several of Maka'ala's fast, and once you learn it, it's wonderful to do it, of course, with the group, but it becomes something that I find it's powerful. It's powerful to do multiple times a year, and it is something you can, once you understand it and you've done it with him once, I feel like it's something that it can become part of your life.
And that's
It'll be
the
a
whole
great
point.
program. Those conversations.
Yeah, and that's the point I wanted to make, is that I want to teach people how to do it so they can do it on their own. You don't have to be relying on me anymore. To me, independence is the best. I like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not in the, I've never been in the business of repeat business. At the fasting or the Ho'oponopono practitioner, yeah, that would be online. The Ho'oponopono program will all be streaming online, and you'll have handouts. You'll have it's. I'll be announcing it soon. Make sure you email me. You can go to our website manalomi.com, and you can sign up on our email list there. It'll invite you to be part of the Ohana manalomi.com, and then we will have you on our email list, and when we launch it, and all of you will have the information. And yeah, I'm excited about that because now I can reach out to a lot more people. The logistics is going to be challenging if they're coming from other countries, but I want to reach out to the whole world. So, and everything will be archived. So every conversation that we have live will be archived, so those who can make the live session can hear what the questions and answers are. Or my discussions.
And we'll make sure, if you're listening to this recording, we'll make sure that everyone who registered for this event will get the websites, how to connect to Maka'ala via his website and his newsletter. And we highly encourage you to do that. I know he doesn't look like it, but Maka'ala is he's 75, and it's a real it's just a real honor to be able to work with a kumu, to learn from a kumu of the depth and breadth of his knowledge and ike and wisdom, and especially all the teachers. I mean, if you may or may not recognize some of the names he mentioned, but he is the living legacy of some amazing kupuna, and so you're getting the benefit of legacies of healers when you connect with Maka'ala. And
I wanted to read this. I want to read this part of in my book on Morna Simeona. Just a small part here. It's just the last part of her chapter, because there's every teacher had their own chapters. And here is, I say, Morna was my first ever interaction with a genuine kahuna that had mana. Mana, of course, is that life force. She was my first encounter into the kahuna world of old. Her mother, Lilia Simeona, was a kahuna la'aukahea, which means to heal through chants, including the healing of broken bones. Lilia was also the lady in waiting for Queen Liliuokalani, the last sovereign monarch in the kingdom of Hawaii, right? So this is some powerful stuff. It's the lineage. So this is Morna's exact words. I have it in quote here. We are the sum total of our experiences, which is to say that we are burdened by our past. When we experience stress or fear in our lives, if we look carefully, we would find that the cause is actually a memory. It is the emotions which are tied to these memories which affect us now. The subconscious associates an action or person in the present with something that happened in the past. When this occurs, emotions are activated and stress is produced. That's her words, literal words. Yeah, she was amazing. She was amazing. They all were amazing. It was a magical journey. The book is a magical book. It's a magical journey. I'm certain everyone will enjoy it.
Thank you. Yes, we cannot wait to read it over and over again. So we have about 15 minutes, and I would love to open it up for questions. If you still have a question to ask Maka'ala, you can unmute yourself if you'd like, or you can type it in the chat, but we'd love to hear from some of you who are here live, as this information kind of settles. If you have a question, now's your chance.
No, I don't know that. I don't know Brad Yates. I don't know who that is. Yates is big. My lineage is a Kipapa. So my lineage goes all the way to, I have recorded names all the way to the 1700s. Kawahine Lehua. Kawahine means wahine, is a woman. And kui is the soul, and lehua is the flower. That's her name. Kekapahaukea is Kapa is a clothing that they make, and how is from a tree, and Kea is a white, so it's a white from the tree. And, you know, this is a lineage that I have that goes way back to the 1700s. So Brad Yates, no, I don't know who that is. Somebody asked a question.
I see Letty has her hand up. Letty, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Sorry if you guys hear someone is doing work in the back here, one of the neighbors, but hopefully you can hear me. So yeah, thank you for this space and for hosting this event. My question is, as we talked about moving forward into leaving behind and all that, what would be your suggestion when, like in my case, I have a friend that I know he's moving to a different direction, but he has asked me to stay on his path for support. And I know he's going through a big transition in his life, but at the same time, my body is already giving me the signs, like you said, with not feeling great sometimes and energetically. And I keep receiving the same message. Like when Susan invited me to this event and the title was To Let Go, and I was like, okay. So yeah, thank you.
So the thing is, you can support someone you care for and love. But at some point, though, they're gonna have to start, standing on their own 2 feet. I mean, how long does this go on? So I'll give you an example. This woman was in my class, and her mother was in hospital, and not hospice at that point, but very sick, but always wanting her daughter, always wanting. And I told the daughter, you need to take a break. Look at your face, and you're just not healthy. Your light is dimming. You need to take a break, step out of the circle. But she said, I can't. I love my mom and I want to support her. And I told her, how can you help somebody if your light is almost dying? You have to step out of the circle and recharge yourself and come back in and see if there's any changes. You can help a person, but are they helping themselves? At some point, they're going to have to do that. I mean, you can't be dependent on another person all their lives. I understand an elder who is debilitated and all that needs help, for sure, but someone who's able to, to function, they should, at some point, do something about their lives, right? Can't be responsible all the time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? When you see Maka'ala, when you meet him face to face, and if he says Peheko Pico, that is, how is your light?
Oh no, Peakala.
Pehekala.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pehekala.
Yeah.
Your pico is your navel. A pico kako. That's one of the things he always shares with us too. A pico kako. We are always connected. We are all connected.
Yeah.
Everybody listening to this today, and everybody listening to the recording.
Well, Maka'ala looks like
Eliza is a good. She knows a lot. She's listening in there. She speaks Hawaiian. She studied with me and other people in Hawaii. She's very good at what she does. So she understands where I'm coming from. She knows. We had a conversation, I think, last night about situations, and because you have people interpreting the Hawaiian culture in various ways is not even applicable, or not even connected to the original people. But I'm here. I'm not planning to leave this planet anytime soon. So
we want to keep you for as long as you wish to stay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, if nobody has a question, I'm going to ask a question, and I think it's one of the things that helped me certainly from understanding and not just understanding, but being able to relate to people not only in Hawaii in terms of like where they are on their timeline, but also just in general, expanding that and meeting people I love how you taught us, one of the things you taught us early on was the timeline. And that has been huge in just in relating with people. And we do have a question that popped up, but so maybe pause that one for a second. Here, Carrie has a question. How, whoops, I lost it. Let's see. How to apply Ho'oponopono to current events and broken heart of disappointment. That's a good one. Current events.
Yeah, listen, I create the world I want to live in. I don't accept the world that's existing right now. I envision the world I would want to live in. It's not this world. I don't belong in this world, but I'm in the world. I mean, I'm operating in that world. So while I'm operating in this world that is in chaos, I'm holding space for those souls who are awake, so they don't go to sleep. So one of my, I mean, essentially my meditations, I send out to the ethers into the Ike, the knowledge that exists all around us, and put into motion my intentions of helping those souls stay awake from this madness that's going on. It is not my world, and so therefore I don't accept it. It's not part of my life. I know I'm operating in this world, but it's with my adjustments. Yeah. Somebody asked a question about pregnancy. I missed that one.
Yeah, this is a great question too. Thank you, Carrie, for that question. That's a powerful one. Lisa asked, I feel like sharing the story of pregnancy loss holds on to the memory of that soul, such deep grief. By not telling the story, does it mean we forget?
So, well, I mean, listen, I had a woman in my class who, she had a best friend with her in a Lomi class, and they asked me to come over to help her out because when they worked on her abdomen, she would go into, physical, her body would shake. And I immediately knew there was something connected to the abdominal area, and then she was an older woman, so I had a couple of ideas, but it was not. It wasn't inappropriate to deal with that in the class. However, I did work on her abdomen, but used her hands first and integrated my hands. And the long story short was that she had a 13-year-old son who died from a rare disease, and she harbored everything in her abdominal cavity area. That's where she carried him the most. And every time he touched her stomach, she went into this body shaking panic mode. And we had a discussion about this. And today, of course, she's a minister. She's a yoga teacher. She's moved on from all of that experience. She's moved on from that. The memory is still there. She still loved this soul that was with her, but she doesn't harbor it anymore. So she's let go of that part of it. So, you know what I mean? So you can love someone and you can have a couple who love each other, but have conflicts. You can get rid of the conflicts. You're not getting rid of the person, but you get rid of the conflicts within each other, and then but you still love each other, right? I know it's a little different from that question, but on a pregnancy thing, it's a big deal because there's a big memory there, big signature there. So, it's not an easy task to go through, but this woman did. She was able to through Ho'oponopono.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
I don't know why she became a priest, but she became a priest. I didn't convince her to be a priest, but she did. She became that.
Maybe that's her new story, her new self-identity after releasing the old story.
That's Even with in pre and post natal classes that I teach, the Lumina'awa and Lomi Hapai, it's not the same as in Hawaii. What I teach is different, and even there's a lot to do with the postpartum and all that not been dealt with, and I cover all of that stuff because we can't forget that as well. the woman who's after birth, and she gets all this emotion is connected to that. So that's another, I know it's not a traumatic thing, but it's still an issue that we overlook sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly. We do overlook that prenatal.
Post, post, yeah.
I remember one time, Maka'ala, you saying to us, when when a soul crosses over, we should be elated for them. They are returning. And when the souls are born into this world, that's when we tend to be all happy, but we should really, there's almost like a, whoa, they're kind of downgrading to be on this, in this earthly realms. Those weren't the exact words that you used, but it made sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, crossing over is, I've done a lot of that this year alone. Wow. A lot of people I've known very, very, very close who's crossed over, helped them cross over. And I know it may not sound like a big deal, but it's a big deal for a soul going across. And from a Hawaiian perspective, it is a big deal. And there are other cultures like Tibetans is a big deal for them too as well. And so crossing over is one of the hardest, the most complex of Ho'oponopono, because I tap in to any threads that might be holding them back, and then I communicate, and there's certain things that I do to dismantle those threads so they can move on and not hang back, because hanging back can be detrimental and you're stuck in between worlds. So crossing over is a critical part, and it's really, really. Mona was my first experience helping me this soul cross over, and I won't share the story now, but it's we tend to hold back a soul by our sadness, and yeah, the circumstances might be sad, of course. And the years that we've known them, we have this connection, and it's sad, of course, that we've known them so much, so long in the shell, all of a sudden the shell is not there anymore. So I get that part. But nevertheless, the soul has to move on, not get stuck back here. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Gosh, I feel like we've kind of moved through all the, well, maybe not all, but so many aspects of Ho'oponopono, from kind of what on the surface level we might see, to all the way to helping a soul cross over. It's pretty profound.
Yeah, and another thing too with the other person who asked a question regarding healing, and Ho'oponopono helper healing, right? It could also be a past life issue too. That's Ho'oponopono. There could be a connection from a past life experience that you're bringing into this world, and there's ways of doing that. There's also a genetic connection, genealogically connected from, I don't know, 5-10 generations ago, that could be harboring that. There's a lot of things that could be associated with a person not being well. So not just a physical thing, not just an emotional thing of this lifetime, but could be other lifetimes as well. And that has to be looked into. And it's easy to do, because if there's anything that I have done or others have harmed me, I let that go. I don't carry the responsibility anymore.
Right. So powerful. Well, I just want to say again, Maka'ala, thank you for taking the time with us today. 90 minutes is a long time, and it's we really appreciate you sharing, because all we have is time, right? And we can and how we share our time is very important. And so we're just thankful that you've decided to share your time with us today. It's great to see you. It's great to it's always great to hear your stories and learn so much. I have 3x5 cards filled out with notes what you shared today. So thank you so much, Maka'ala. We really appreciate it.
And we thank all of you for being on this call today, and those of you that will listen to the recording. This is wisdom that just lives on and on and on. And so thank you, however you're tuning in. And I think our good friend Glenn asked, perhaps you can close, Maka'ala, with saying again what Pono means to you.
Yeah, I know. it's a daily lifestyle. It's how I react to others, how I respond to comments, how I operate in this world, especially in this chaotic world. And can I still behave as my true self? Can I still express my true self and not have it tainted by what's going on around me? If I'm playing golf and it's a bad day on a golf course, am I okay with that? Yes, yeah, okay. I get frustrated on a golf course when I'm not playing well, right? But the next day I go back and I play well, I'm okay again. So yeah, but this is being porno, be living in balance all the time. I get oh, I know a good one. I lapsed my passport. So, and I'm scheduled to go to Poland in June, and passport hasn't come yet, right? Now, it can be easily a frustrating thing. And I say, it is what it is. If it happens, it happens. It doesn't, it doesn't. I'm okay with that. I can only do the best I can do. And that's it. I don't have to compare myself with somebody else. I just do the best I can do. Maka'ala. And bring harmony to this world, bring connection into this world, not separation, connection. So that means every word I say, every thought I have is about connection, not disconnection. That's how porno is for me. Mahalo nui loa, everybody.
Thank you,
Mahalo nui
Mahalo.
loa. We love
I
you.
love you
too.
guys.
Love you too.
Thank you. Love everyone here. Mahalo.
Thank you, everybody.
Ahui ho.